Arsenal because they have really gone for it in this transfer window, but big news coming out of the club today over a new contract.
Yeah, Ephraim Wary signed a new contract until 2030, as you can see there. 18 years of age, his previous deal was going to expire. 37 appearances last season, 9 goals in all competitions. Talk about a breakthrough campaign. This really was one, and Arsenal got some real talent coming through, real talent. But this is a big one for Mikel Arteta.
Yeah, so that's good news. Miles Lewis-Skelly, of course, another youngster who signed a long-term contract earlier on in this transfer window. I mentioned those 6 new signings as well. They've really gone for it, including that elusive number 9 in Victor Gyökeres arriving at the Emirates. I think the priority now for Arsenal might well be on departures. They will probably consider offers for Alexander Zinchenko, Reece Nelson, who has been in talks with Fulham, Albert Sambi-Lokonga. Stuttgart want Fabio Vieira. And who knows, they might, if they can get these deals done outgoings-wise before the end of the window, could they go again? There's still talk that perhaps there's an eye being kept on a certain Rodrygo from Real Madrid if he was to become available.
Forward, Rodrygo has been linked with a move away from the Bernabeu. South American football expert Tim Vickery believes the Brazil international could leave Madrid if Xabi Alonso doesn't play him in his preferred position.
Let's watch this space over the next couple of weeks, because this could be interesting. And Rodrygo has the Real Madrid dilemma, doesn't he? That it's hard for players to be top dog there. And he's so talented. He's almost absurdly talented. But someone has to do the hard yards. And, Jude Bellingham said last year that he considered Rodrygo the most talented of all of them and the one who has to sacrifice himself most for the side. Now, where does Xabi Alonso see him? Because he can play anywhere across the front line. Didn't use him very much in the Club World Cup. And when he did, wide right. Now, we know that Rodrygo doesn't really want to play wide right. He would far prefer a free role. Now, what we understand is that he's very keen on staying at Real Madrid and proving to Xabi Alonso that he can be a key part of that side. Over the next 2 weeks, if that doesn't happen, then he may start looking around. And what an asset he would be. It's almost like one of those mafia films when you need to break away and start your own family, because he is so good.
Yeah, he is good. And Arsenal were linked with him earlier in the window, Dharmesh. Could they go back in?
As well, they've already gone in for Wissa, remember, £25 million. That was rejected. But Wissa, significantly, has made it clear over and over again he wants to leave, he wants to join Newcastle, and he's ready to travel as soon as he's given the green light. Brentford are in action tonight against Borussia Mönchengladbach. The matchday squad, unsurprisingly, does not include Yoane Wissa. So, Michael, let's talk about Newcastle then. It has been a very, very frustrating window, a very, very difficult one. This was supposed to be the window, wasn't it, when they were going to go for it? Champions League football back at St James's Park. A first trophy in over 50 years back to St James's Park. It just simply hasn't worked out that way.
It's unbelievable, really. I mean, I remember hearing a quote from Amanda Stavey, who's obviously no longer at Newcastle, when Newcastle won the League Cup, and she said this will be just the beginning for Newcastle United. But they've done so well over the last few years in terms of recruitment, and it all started with Kieran Trippier. Then you've got Bruno Guimaraes, who's been absolutely brilliant. Sven Botman's been great when he's fit. Timo Livramento, Lewis Hall, Anthony Gordon. Sandro Tonali's back and brilliant. Isak's been a great signing. But then all of a sudden, it's stalled this summer, and it's so incredibly hard. But, obviously, Eddie Howe and Newcastle were shopping in the same window as other clubs, and they've seen that, and it's been ever so frustrating. I don't think Eddie Howe could have done any more. He's such a great talker, and he's got everyone respects him, and it's just one of those. It's been incredibly frustrating. But all I could say really is that the window is not over, and I'm sure Newcastle will do plenty of business.
You say do plenty of business. I mean, the shadow that is Alexander Isak continues to hang over the rest of their window, because it's almost got to a point where do they need to start spending this money in the knowledge that at some point Isak might be leaving the football club?
Well, I think, as Keith has been saying all week, they need players alongside Isak, and they need more. I keep going back to it. The European campaign for all these clubs, it's going to be relentless. And when Newcastle did get in the Champions League last time, their league form suffered, and that season they missed out on Europe. So it's going to be relentless for clubs like Newcastle. So they're going to need more. Vissa clearly wants to go to the football club, and then they need one more. That's striker.
We talk about Newcastle United shopping in the same market as some of these other big clubs. Not only clubs who are in the Champions League, but, as we've seen this week, clubs like Manchester United, who may have finished 15th, but there is still that pull of Manchester United. We've heard that Šeško only wanted to go to Manchester United. So it wasn't anything to do with Newcastle. It wasn't a case of snubbing Newcastle, but it was a case of wanting to play for Manchester United. But what Newcastle have got at the moment is a bit of an uncertain structure, if you like, because no sporting director, no chief executive. How much can that add to the uncertainty? And for players who are wanting to join a club thinking, actually, is everything fine at this football club or not?
But you've got to get the right sporting director as well, don't you? Because when Dan Ashworth was there, it looked like he'd signed some really good players. Then you hear about Alexander Isak maybe being unhappy last season about not getting a contract extension. And we look at the Benjamin Sesko deal. It's not just Ruben Amorim who wanted it, was it? It wasn't just Amorim.
Yeah, I mean, look, everyone at Manchester United have got this structure now, which I guess that was what the cynics would point towards Manchester United in the 10 or 11, 12 years since Sir Alex Ferguson retired from the manager's post at the club, was there was no structure there. Gary Neville would consistently say there's no sporting director there. I'm sure that while Manchester United were winning all of these titles under Sir Alex Ferguson, the rest of the chasing pack were thinking, how are we going to stop them? How do we stop this? How do we start winning these trophies? So they built their structures, while United continued with, well, we just need a good manager, and that should be fine. It's only now that United have got their structure, and we're starting maybe to see the fruit of that structure bear fruit, because you've got the lights, as we've been mentioning before, this entirely new front three that Manchester United have bought. They've surprised everyone with how they've approached this transfer window, and perhaps what United have done is what many people expected Newcastle to have done in this window.
It could be a tough season. I go back to it. Europe is going to really have an effect on the likes of Newcastle, the likes of Spurs, Villa in the Europa League. They all need more. It's not just Newcastle. The problem for Newcastle, I think the players they've wanted, it's all been very public because other clubs have wanted the same players this time around. But, as I say, it's not over. And I'm sure as we speak, they'll be looking for alternatives right now.
They certainly will. Look, it's been a frustrating window so far for Newcastle United, as Michael has been discussing there. I guess it's been a pretty frustrating window as well for Aston Villa. But good news, a done deal.
Yeah, Nice forward Ivan Guisan, who many Premier League clubs have been watching over the last couple of years. He's only 24. He signed a contract until 2030. It's an initial £23.5 million, rising to 28 million if bonuses are met. Very highly regarded. And it sounds to me like a player who's going to go straight into that Villa side. Obviously, Villa had some players on loan last season, including Marcus Rashford, Asensio as well. Good loans. Asensio was really good, wasn't he? Rashford wasn't going to happen when Villa didn't make the Champions League. Guisan comes in. But an interesting one for Villa. I'm still really intrigued by Villa, because when Villa played Spurs at the end of last season, Emi Martinez went round the ground and in tears. People were thinking, what's going on there? Because you don't want to lose him. Morgan Rogers, brilliant player. Ollie Watkins, all linked with other clubs. But they want to keep their best players. We know about the European financial situation, the PSR. But that's a positive signing today. And let's go back to it. Unai.
It's an interesting time for Arsenal. These three new signings are going to completely change Arteta's attack. So in this video, in this bad boy, I'm going to be explaining why Gyökeres can solve Arsenal's issues in the box, why Eze and Madueke actually bring a skill set that Arsenal desperately need, and why all of them are going to be a great addition to the answer that's needed for Arteta's biggest problem so far during his tenure. So this was Arteta's system last season, with Kai Havertz leading the line. And despite only managing 23 league appearances last year, he finished as their top scorer. This is for a team that's trying to win the league, with 9 goals. And that, for me, proved that there was a desperate need for a prolific goal scorer. I know, it's an original thought, your mind is blown. But walk with me for a second, because I think I'm right on this one. Joking aside, they failed to make the most of easy chances, like when Havertz dragged his shot wide from a clear goal-scoring position here against Manchester City. Big opportunities, big moments, big games, and big goals, and so those need to be taken. Arsenal actually took the lead in 30 league games last season, and they dropped 21 points from winning positions. That is just not something you can do if you want and have the ambitions to win the title, which of course Arsenal have at this point. They have to be able to kill off a game. Now, Kai Havertz is set to be replaced by Victor Gyökeres, and he could be exactly what they've needed. And Gyökeres has shown, since joining Sporting, his reliability in front of goal, latching onto loose balls, showing excellent striker instincts such as this quick scan to check the goalkeeper's positioning before rifling it first time into the far corner. But when it comes to Gyökeres coming through the door, it's not as simple as only adding clinical finishing to Arsenal's attack. Arsenal have been known under Arteta for their defensive qualities, being resolute and extremely hard to break down. And this can open up brilliant counter-attacking opportunities, which is something that Arsenal, they weren't able to take advantage of enough last season. And this is one of the hidden Gyökeres strengths. It's one of his best strengths that people don't talk about enough when they're talking about him coming into the club. His ability to peel off into the channel, to find the space, carrying the ball large distances on his own, quickly, effectively in transition into the box, and being able to create separation for a shot. And this is a constant in his game. Repeatedly making those relentless runs. He is that power forward that people are talking about these days.